Yeah, well, today we're going to talk about my dealings in having COVID. Yeah, it wasn't a fun ride. So you may ask yourself, so why am I doing this video? I'm doing this video for those people out there that have some concerns about COVID, are curious about COVID if you've never had it, and for those out there that have had it, maybe for some kind of comparisons between the symptoms that I had and what I went through versus what you had and what you went through. So I have to back up a little bit. So my last video on my main channel was on December 24th, Christmas Eve. And we went out of town, I believe, on the 28th. So we went to New Mexico, Angel Fire, because my daughter and my wife, they love to ski. I don't. I'm not a good skier. I know how to fall down really well. But I figured, well, it's a chance to get away. We haven't had a vacation in 2 years since this whole COVID pandemic really started. So we decided, okay, we're going to drive instead of fly. So we went out to New Mexico. And if you've ever been to Angel Fire and you're there on the property in the resort and you're looking to get any food, you've got to kind of walk up to this one area and it's always packed. I mean, jam packed. So here we are, we're wearing a mask, doing our due diligence. And by the way, no, I don't think I got COVID there. But then again, I'm not really sure. Uh, so we had eaten up at the top a couple of times. Then we went to the restaurant in the resort, ate there twice. And then I had gotten sick. Now, I attributed it to some pizza that I ate up on top. And it was really weird because that evening we went out to the restaurant to go eat a really nice dinner. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I've got these chills. I mean, I am freezing. And then I felt my face and I was like, wow, I am burning up. And then Montezuma's Revenge came. And I'm not going to get real graphic about that, but that's where you go number 2 constantly. So I was going like every 10 minutes. It was horrific. And I was laying in bed. I wasn't coughing, didn't have any chest discomfort, any of that. I was just running a fever, and really my gastrointestinal was just totally jacked up. And I remember telling my wife when we had lunch that afternoon, I was like, wow, that pizza tasted kind of funky. So my wife, of course, she's like, you just got a stomach bug, or it could be that pizza. Maybe you just had some bad pizza, and that was that. So that was on. Well, I got to take a look at my calendar just to remember dates. Let's see. We came back on January the 4th, so I was sick that Saturday evening. That Sunday, I was still sick as a dog. Monday, felt a little bit better. Tuesday was still a little bit better than the previous days. And my wife decided to drive back. And so she drove for a while. Normally, I'm the driver because I like road trips. So we're driving back. I start driving. Everything's fine. I get back, or we get back home. Everything's fine for a while. And then I notice on, let me get back to the calendar here because timing is going to be very relevant in this. So it was Sunday the 9th. Well, actually, Saturday the 8th, I started sneezing a lot. And I was just like, wow, that's really weird because I was just sneezing up a storm. And it's funny because up until that point, I would always make jokes. If anybody sneezed, I'd go, I'm Omicron, right? Because that's supposed to be one of the big symptoms. So here I am sneezing on that Saturday, the 8th. Sunday, the 9th, the sneezing's getting worse. I'm not feeling bad, per se. Now, on the 10th is when all hell broke loose. I was sick as a dog. I was running a fever. But the fever wasn't a high fever. It would range anywhere from 100 to 102, back to 100, 102, 100, 99.8, 99.5, up to 102. And it was just kind of cycling. And of course, immediately when I was sick that Monday, we kept everybody away from me because I was like, if I am sick, whether it's the flu, and that's what my initial thoughts were because it felt like the flu. And I was just like, just in case, keep everybody away. So it was horrific for the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th. Let me get back to calendar here because I can tell you when I actually got tested. So I tried to get tested Saturday the 15th. They were already filled up for the day, and everybody else was filled up for the day. Sunday, by the time that I got out there, they're only open for a couple of hours, and they weren't doing any testing into the early afternoon, so I was stuck there. Monday the 17th, I went to go get tested. Now, they did a rapid test on me, and they did the PCR test. So the rapid test, and I told the lady that did the little swabs that I've been sick for 7 days now. So think about that. For 7 days, I was sick with the fever, coughing, sore throat, congestion in the chest, body aches, the whole bit. She says, oh, well, that's probably going to come back positive because you've had symptoms for this long. The rapid test came back negative. And I was like, okay, I just got the flu. I've got to wait for the PCR test, and that was going to take anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. So, but I noticed that it was just getting worse with me. And then all of a sudden, my sense of smell and taste changed. It did not go away. It just changed. And what I mean it changed dramatically. I'm a lover of coffee. So if you know me at all, I always talk about coffee. I love coffee. And all of a sudden, coffee, and it's not that I know what coffee or poison smells like or what it tastes like, but in my palate, that's the only way to describe it. It was, everything smelled the same way. Coffee, orange juice, my dog, our little puppy, well, I can't say she's a puppy, she's 1.5. But I mean, when I smelt her, she smelt the same as what coffee did. And it smelled like poison. It smelled like something toxic. And when I taste coffee or taste milk or tasted anything, food, everything tasted like poison. Water was really the only thing that didn't have that horrific poisonous or toxic taste to it, but there was a little bit there in the water, but water was palatable for me. So I drank a ton of water. Now we're going to fast forward into Tuesday, and Tuesday my chest is just so congested and so tight. And I told my wife, I said, I've only had pneumonia one time before, and it was walking pneumonia, and that was back in the 90s. But I told her, I said, man, I feel like I've got pneumonia. So what did she say? She says, well, let's go down to the ER. Not to the hospital. There's a freestanding ER place that's not far from our house, probably about 4 or 5 minutes away. So I walk in over there. They asked me about COVID, and I said, I just got COVID tested yesterday. The rapid came back, even though I had symptoms for 7 days with the fever, the whole bit. And they said, okay, well, what are you here for? And I said, well, my chest is just a lot of discomfort. It's really just, it's not that it's hard to breathe. I mean, my oxygen level was like 95 to 97. So it wasn't bad. And I told him, I said, I think I got pneumonia. So the doctor said, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll shoot a couple films. So we got a front view, side view. And as I'm sitting over there waiting, they're like, are you sure that you don't have COVID? And I said, no, I'm not sure. Now, the rapid came back negative, but I'm waiting on the PCR. And the PCR is kind of the gold standard when it comes to COVID and whether you have it or not. So went ahead and waited. The doctor came back into the room and said, you look like you've got pneumonia, because he can see the hazing in the image. But he's waiting on the radiologist to do a full read on the x-ray. So it's okay. So we're sitting over there. At this time, my fever had came down a lot because I took a bunch of ibuprofen. I think I took 800 milligrams of ibuprofen because of the body aches and also the fever. So my body temp was normal. He comes back and he says, radiologist just read it, said you have COVID pneumonia. And I was like, COVID pneumonia? He said, yeah, apparently for people that have pneumonia from COVID, it presents itself on the imaging a certain way of how it looks. So he said, the radiologist said, it looks like COVID pneumonia. And once again, he asked me, do you have COVID? The weird thing is he didn't offer a test there. And so he went ahead and prescribed me a Z-Pak, which is an antibiotic. You take 2 the first day, and then the second, third, fourth, and fifth day, you just take 1. And then he prescribed me prednisone, 20 milligrams twice a day for 4 days. And things were starting to clear up a little bit by Wednesday. But Wednesday, let me back up. Tuesday evening, I just happened to look at it up on my phone. Has the results come in yet? Sure enough, PCR test, and it says positive. So I go back to the place where I got the initial COVID test done because there's a doctor on site there that will treat you for free. So I went over there. Excuse me, I still have a little bit of a cough. So I went over there, talked to him. He prescribed me ivermectin, but he said, I've already been sick for over a week. Ivermectin, you're supposed to take apparently a little bit sooner, but he prescribed me ivermectin. He said, here's some hydrochloroquine, whatever that name is. But he said he was going to prescribe me that too. He said, but just leave that one on the side if you ever get sick again, but take the ivermectin. So prescribed me ivermectin, some inhaler, that not the regular type, the one that you actually have to breathe through the little machine, a little vaporizer. So he prescribed me that to help with the lungs. He prescribed me, what else was it? There was something else. It'll come to me here in a minute. So I started feeling a little bit better. But when I say a little bit, we're talking about very small increments. The main thing that I found with what I went through is that the fatigue was probably the worst thing. Now, granted, the first 4 days that I was sick, I hardly ate anything because I had zero appetite. All I wanted to do was just lay down. And I would just lay in bed, and it was just easy for me to sleep 20 hours. I mean, not a problem. And the weird thing is, I'd wake up drenched in sweat thinking, yay, I broke the fever. Because remember, early on, I thought it was just the flu. But then within an hour of me getting up, it would be right back again. And it just never stopped. Now, here we are. Today is the 13th of February. And my sense of taste and sense of smell is probably about 50% back. On the outside edges of my tongue, as I sip coffee, my initial taste is of the coffee. It tastes good. Shortly after that is that toxic taste that comes. And that toxic smell is still there. I think, if anything, I'm going to end up with long COVID. And I don't say that because I'm looking forward to that, because I'm not. I'm really wanting to recover from this and get this behind me. And by the way, this video is not about vaxxing or anti-vaxxing. That's your choice. That's a personal choice. If you choose to get vaccinated, great. If you choose to not get vaccinated, great. This is about just getting COVID and what it was like. Do I think that I had Omicron? No, I don't, because of the severity and how deep into the lungs that the pneumonia went. I think that, if anything, I gotten Delta. But if you look at the calendar, let me get back to my calendar here. From getting sick on the 8th, on the Oh, earlier I said it was the 8th. No, it was actually January the 1st. Saturday, January the 1st is when I was sick over there at Angel Fire, New Mexico. So I wish I had said that earlier and kind of looked at the calendar. It was not January the 8th. It was January the 1st when I got sick with the food poisoning. Now, to go from the 1st to the 10th, you would think that since I had a fever and gastrointestinal issues, which is a symptom of COVID, you would think that I would have been sick throughout that and then gotten better. Not that I would all of a sudden present more drastic symptoms almost 2 weeks later. So here I am on the 13th of February. It's been approximately a month after the onset of symptoms. How do I feel? The brain fog is crazy. And for those of you that know, my mother passed away on January 25th, which was a horrendous blow to the family, a horrendous blow to me. So part of me is like, okay, part of that brain fog could just be, the remorse of my mother passing, all of that. But a lot of the brain fog is still there. I mean, I still grieve my mother every moment of every day. But right now, like doing this video, I'm concentrated on trying to tell you about my COVID symptoms and my experiences with it. My sleep pattern has changed since having COVID. Normally, I am a person that goes to bed at 10:30, and I'm up at 5. Right now, I am going to bed at like 9:30, and I'm waking up at 8, 7. On school days, I catch myself 6:20, and it's like, oh my gosh, our daughter gets up at 6:30 because I make her breakfast and get her ready for school. And the fatigue is just crazy. The body aches. Like I said, the brain fog it's very unique. And the only way, it's like I told a friend of mine, the brain fog for me is like, imagine having a hangover the next morning. That's what the brain fog is like for me, but without the headache part. Now, I have had a headache the entire time, but it's one of those just mild background headaches. And by the way, if for those of you out there that have lost your sense of smell and taste, there's a chiropractic technique that's kind of going around the country right now. I don't know if it works. I had my wife try it on me to see if it would change my sense of smell and taste. But apparently you take your right hand, put it over your heart, take your index finger, put it right here on your forehead, and then the doctor thumps you in the back of your head, and it's supposed to kind of kick on your olfactory system so that your sense of smell and taste come back. And then you're supposed to stick out your tongue, touch the tip of your tongue while the doctor thumps the back of your head, and they're thumping right at the base of the skull, right as the skull meets the cervical, your neck, and they thump right there. And that's supposed to bring back your sense of smell. I had my wife try it on me for changing my sense of taste and smell, and it really didn't work. But then again, it seems kind of weird. I've heard of crazier things before. How do I look at the future with this whole COVID thing? Well, I know that if I got the Delta, which I'm really, really leaning towards because it wasn't so much upper respiratory here in the bronchals, it was way down deep in the lungs. I'm going to say that it was Delta. At least I got some immunity now, right? I'm still very cautious. You may ask yourself, okay, well, how did you get it? Have I been able to track down how I got it? And I believe that I did. So tracking down how I got it, because I was like, I'm really methodical. I wear a mask. If I go inside somewhere and I touch stuff, I make sure I don't touch my face, my eyes, my nose. I get back out into my truck and I will take hand sanitizer and wash my hands, and then I'll take off my mask. Okay? So I'm trying to think of what did I do that could have triggered, or where did I get exposed? Where could I have gotten this from? I could have gotten it from my wife, who got it from somebody else. I mean, But I tracked it down to Best Buy. So my Best Buy bill was due. So I went into the store. It's, 5 minutes from me. And I went there and I paid the bill. And then I went to go look at a Sony a7S III. And there was two guys that were over there messing with it, touching it and playing with it. So I was just kind of looking at some of the other cameras. And the Sony was at EOS or ES10, whatever it is, the successor to the Sony ZV-1. So I was kind of looking at that, but I didn't really touch it. I was just sitting there looking at it and looking at the specs. And when those two guys left, I went over there and picked up the Sony. So I turned it on, looking through the viewfinder, looking through the screen. It's got a G Master lens on it. I flip out the screen to see what it's like, full frame to vlog with. Really was digging it. Out of stock. Talked to the manager. No, can't sell me the display unit because it doesn't belong to Best Buy. It belongs to Sony. So anyway, I go ahead and I leave the store. I get into my truck, come back home. I do not remember taking the hand sanitizer and washing my hands. And I really think it was from touching that Sony a7S III and messing with it and messing with the knobs. Just because two people prior were standing there touching it, playing with it. And that's what we do, right? When we go to a store, we touch stuff, check it out, see how it looks, especially if it's camera oriented. And I think that's where I got exposed. And it was 2 days later that I started showing symptoms. So, no, it was 3 days later that I was showing symptoms on the 10th of January. So that's where I think I got it from. Sense of balance. Sense of balance is shot. Shot to a point to where I go into the shower and I stand there and I close my eyes, wash my hair, and when my eyes are closed, I feel like I'm going to fall. I actually have to either put my elbow up against the side wall of a walk-in shower, or I've got to actually hold on to it and then finish rinsing out my hair, and then I can sit there and shave and all that. But if I close my eyes, my sense of balance is shot. And that has never been the case for me, except now with being exposed to COVID. So sense of balance, sense of smell and taste have changed. Didn't go away, just everything tastes like poison. The body aches are still there. Really weird. I had a wound injury on my left lower leg from last June that tore out a chunk about this big. And that's all healed up, knock on wood. All that was good. It was about 10 days into, maybe 9 days into symptoms of COVID, that all of a sudden that wound was hurting like I had just ripped it open, to where I actually had to pull down because I have to still wear those stupid elastic compression socks over that wound to make sure it stays nice and tight until that skin gets stronger. I pulled down a compression stocking to look at the wound because I thought, man, I ripped open the wound or something. And it's fine. And I was telling my wife about it. She said, well, more than likely the virus, because the virus, how it travels through your body and affects all the cells, it could be, that's a weak point. That's a recovery area. Maybe it's messing with that a little bit. But that now is also gone. I've got a little bit of neuropathy going on in my feet, both feet. And it's from the toes up to the ankle. And it's not like I've lost all sensation, just some of the sensation. I have to attribute that to COVID as well, because it wasn't there before. Let's see. What else? I'm trying to think of all the symptoms that I'm still suffering from now. And that's why I say I really think that I'm going to be one of those long haulers. And I hope to God not. But it's been a month. So realistically, when you think of infection from the time of being infected to being symptomatic, which was on January the 10th for me. And then let's add, on a crazy scale, 10 days of that. So it puts us at January the 20th. And that would give me three weeks, 3 days after I should have recovered. So I'm still kind of dealing with this a little bit. And I'm still having symptoms. Now, the fever, nope, no more fever. Ever since I started the antibiotic and started taking the prednisone, the fever stopped the next day, and it hasn't been back since. And I check periodically just to make sure. But that's been my experience with COVID-19, and I really think that it was the Delta that I had. I don't think it was the Omicron, because my symptoms were so severe. And, could I have had Omicron and suffered all those symptoms because I was physically exhausted? I just went through that whole either food poisoning or stomach flu bit in New Mexico. Could be. Maybe my immune system was a little bit shot and a little bit weakened, and Omicron hit me a little bit harder than what I would normally think. It could be. Nobody really knows. Samples were never sent out to determine, is it Delta, is it Omicron, is it the original strain? So I have no way of knowing for sure, but knowing what Delta and how aggressive that Delta is on the biological system, I would say that I had Delta. And I would say that I'm still suffering some of the repercussions of Delta. And what I'd really like is, for all of you out there that are watching that have either had it, and like I said, I just wanted to put this video forward because if you haven't had COVID at all, man, knock on wood, good job. You're doing a very good job staying safe and staying away from everybody and taking good precautions. But this is something maybe educational wise where you can go, oh, okay, see, it just took one little lapse at Best Buy for me touching a camera, and I exposed myself because I did not hand sanitize. Like I said, I know every time I go, and how do I know? Because you may ask yourself, Andre, if you use hand sanitizer everywhere you go to the gas station, you go to the grocery store, you go to work, you do all these things, how do you know for sure that you didn't that day? The little hand sanitizer that I have, my daughter had given me, and it's one of those scenty ones, but every time I close the lid, it will spit out a little bit. So it either spits it on my face or it spits it on my shirt or on my hands or in my lap, but it always spritzes it. It's the only way for me to put it. I don't remember that happening when I left Best Buy. Because, I've had it to where I've turned the lid away from me and it would spritz up onto the radio or on the dash or on the dash panel screen. I just don't remember that happening. I could be totally wrong, but I'm about 90% certain that I did not wash my hands, and I think that that's where I got exposed. But also for those of you out there that have had COVID, whether it's the initial strain that came in 2020 or it's Delta or Omicron, maybe you're suffering some similar side effects from being exposed and having had this horrific virus. Maybe you can share some of your thoughts and your experiences. Did you have your sense of smell and taste change? Not that it went away, because everybody talks about it going away. And we've got some friends of ours that he was sitting there drinking coffee in the morning. And he said he took a sip. Tasted great. Went back, took another sip. Didn't taste anything. And then he went to smell it. Couldn't smell anything. And that's how dramatic. He said it was just a matter of like 30 seconds. I guess he caught it just right at the right time to be able to notice his sense of taste had went away. Mine changed just with the whole poison. God, everything was like so toxic. So if that had happened to you, definitely comment down below. What were your symptoms? What was your experience having COVID? Did you end up going to the hospital? I went to the ER And, the ER doctor was, very specific. He was like, okay, let's give this 48 hours. If you do not feel better in 48 hours and you're still running a fever and your blood oxygen level is getting worse and your symptoms are getting worse, you need to go to the hospital and get on IV antibiotics. So luckily, I didn't have to do that. I did recover. I still have chest pain because I still have the cough. And the cough's been really, really strange because it was a wet cough in the beginning. Then it went to just a dry, one of those hacking coughs, the ones that can really hurt your rib muscles. And now it's back to almost being a little bit wet cough again. When I first wake up, my lungs are loaded, it feels like. And I'm still doing the little inhaler. What do you call that? Is that a vaporizer? But you know what I'm talking about. You put a little bit of liquid into the container, put it on, turn the machine on. You breathe in the steam that comes or the vapor that it creates. So that was my experience with COVID-19. And I will tell you, it is a vicious, vicious, vicious virus. And you can call that a double V right there. Vicious virus. It's very vicious. It is nothing. It is definitely no joke. And that's what I tell everybody. It is no joke when it comes to COVID. What are we at? 5.7 million people have died. And I believe that's the number. 5.7 million have died worldwide. That's pretty vicious. Pretty vicious. So I would say to you, wear your mask if you want to. Wash your hands if you want to. Get vaccinated if you want to. Don't get vaccinated if you don't want to. But for me personally, I'm going to continue wearing a mask. I saw a video online on YouTube that was a very interesting video because it talked about the Spanish flu and how it cycled up and it had some variants. And then it just kind of, after 2.5, almost 3 years, it just went away. I'm hoping that that's going to be the case with COVID. I don't know, because right now they're talking about so many different variants, and that there's the BA2 that is now out. It's another Omicron variant, and apparently there's a BA.3 that's been discovered that has a 33% mortality rate, but right now it's still in animals. So I don't want to get into conjecture about what it's going to be like from a scientific point of view or a biological point of view, or I'm not a virologist, so I have no idea how all this is going to pan out. But I will say that knowing what I went through, I would say take some precautions, take care of yourself, load up on vitamin D is what that other doctor gave me. Prescription for vitamin D3, D2, and he said go out and go get some of those vitamin C gummies, chewables, and he said instead of taking one a day, take like 20 a day. Now, I know that when it comes to ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, you have to be very, very careful. Yes, vitamin C, it is water soluble, so whatever your body doesn't need, it will pee out. But as a byproduct of that, if you take too much vitamin C, you're on a risk of actually getting kidney stones. And I didn't want to complicate that because my family already has a history of kidney disease. Knock on wood, I'm still fine regarding kidneys, and I like to try to keep it that way. So instead of taking 20 of those a day, which is one, I believe, is 100 times your daily amount of what you need. So that's just one. So I was taking 5. And I said, okay, I'm just going to stick with 5. And I'm not going to eat them all at the same time. I'm kind of spread it out throughout the day. But anyway, take your vitamins. Wash your hands at least, because like we all grew up saying, you come out of the bathroom, you wash your hands, right? Takes a second. We teach our kids that. Wash your hands. Try to be a little bit hygienic. With this COVID thing, we definitely have to be a little bit more cautious. I will even up my game a little bit when it comes to being cautious and who I'm around and how close I am to somebody. But I can't live my life anymore being locked down, because that's why I was kind of excited about going to Angel Fire, New Mexico, because I haven't done anything in 2 years. 2 years, we haven't gone anywhere. We haven't done anything. And normally we like to take vacations. So, you know, I'm still going to live my life, and I'm going to have fun, and I'm not going to be scared to where I'm living inside of a room all day long. You know, you got to get out there, but you can still be a little bit cautious. But how you choose to do your life is up to you. How you choose to do things is 100% up to you. So I'm not saying do it this way, do it that way. I'm just saying what it is that I'm going to do. I'm going to be a little bit more cautious regarding hygiene and making sure I wash my hands and what I'm touching and all that. But other than that, I mean, I'm just still going to live my life. The way I look at it is I've got antibodies now that from the latest data that I read out of the UK is that you can have antibodies. They peak up right after infection for about 3-4 months. Then they decline, and then they stabilize. And from the moment of stabilization, apparently your body starts pumping out millions of T cells that will recognize COVID. And so the latest report that I saw was, it said that, you know, you're good for another 8 to 10 years maybe. But then again, that doesn't say you're not going to get reinfected again. But if you do get reinfected, your symptoms should be much, much milder. So that's my experience with COVID, of having COVID, of the side effects and what I'm still kind of dealing with COVID, or post-COVID, should I say. And comment below, because I'm really interested to hear your story, because there's going to be so many people that have different reactions to COVID and different recoveries to COVID, and most importantly, different post-recovery. Some are going to say, hey man, after 7 days, I felt rock solid. I was back to doing what I was normally doing. It was just like the flu was over with. And then there's others that are still suffering. So for those that are still suffering, I feel for it, because I know what that's like. I mean, now granted, it's only been, you know, almost a month for me post being symptomatic. I'm hoping that it goes away really, really, really soon, because I'm tired of being so fatigued. It's funny to say that. It's kind of an oxymoron. I'm tired of being tired. But I am. I'm tired of being tired. But tell me your experiences with COVID, and take really, really, really good care of yourselves out there. And hopefully this was informative one way or another, or a few of you got something out of it. But until the next video, you guys take care of yourselves. I'm going to try to take care of myself. All right, bye-bye.